I'd like to invite our panelists here for the panel discussion on various topics related to mobile app marketing. Even though the title says app retargeting, we'll go a bit broad and understand what's the experience has been around, why they should, why some business should launch a mobile app, what are the different ways they acquire users, how they retain the users, how they really measure the success of the marketing spend they do on the mobile app. So let me invite Piyush Bhargav. Piyush is head of marketing at Ajio. We have Sanjay Trisal. Sanjay is head of business, the India business for AppsFlyer. And we have Deepak. Sorry, Deepak Gandotra from Flipkart. Deepak manages mobile marketing at Flipkart. Yeah, so we'll take a moment for these gentlemen to introduce themselves, and then we'll get into discussion about mobile marketing. And you want to make the discussion more interactive. It is not really these guys talking. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to interject. Feel free to go deep in any topic which you find interesting. But why don't we start the introduction? With Sanjay.
Hi, my name is Sanjay. I manage India operations for AppsFlyer. AppsFlyer, as most of you would know, is a mobile marketing and analytics provider, helping advertisers make more sense of the investments they make on user acquisition, retargeting, things like that. So understanding where your money is going on across all media sources that you're working on. Not only attributing it to the right source, but also life after install, which is understanding the LTV, lifetime value of a user. So those are the analytics we provide. I will talk more as we go in this session, and happy to have any questions you have.
Hi, so I'm Piyush. I'm part of the central marketing team at Reliance Retail, which is into e-commerce, and we work very closely also on the telecom side with Ajio. So as of now, I play multiple roles, but here in Ajio, I'm responsible for performance marketing, essentially marketing which is more ROI slash profitable marketing, I would say. So that's what I look after, and we have been working with both AppsFlyer and RevX for a long time. We have good insights on what it does for us and where is it we want to take them.
Hey everyone, I am Deepak. I'm looking after mobile marketing at Flipkart. Part of my objective is to make sure that Flipkart is getting the relevant set of customers in terms of app acquisition, and also in terms of the partnerships that we do with a lot of brands, OEMs. And I am also looking at the app re-engagement piece at product specific level, as just mentioned, and also at an overall level about customers who might have shopped on Flipkart few days back, few months back, and how to bring them back into the ecosystem, how to provide them the right set of experience that they are looking for.
Thanks guys. Thanks for the introduction. So let's start with the mobile app. If you look at the India e-commerce industry in the last 2-3 years, pretty much all the e-commerce companies have gone out and launched a mobile app. So maybe I will point a question to Piyush. You have been in the industry for quite some time. Why some business should launch mobile app? What is the need for mobile app? What value does a mobile app drive for business, given that there's a lot of investment required to launch a mobile app?
Sure. So see, primarily what's happening is, as a country, we are mobile dominated, internet users, right? And if you see even organically, we are seeing huge traction coming on mobile versus desktop devices. So that's one. Secondly, in the long run, if you don't have an app, your cost of acquisition, because you're not present, with the, your so to speak, with the e-commerce company or whosoever basically you want is not present in your device, you tend to really forget. And there are many options that you therefore look into, right? That's second. And the third thing is, when you have a mobile app, it's easy to do targeting. It's easy to actually talk to the customer. You can do one-on-one marketing. So essentially that helps. And secondly, if you are in a business where you are either utility driven or so to speak, in a space which is fast moving like fashion, obviously people would also want to know at various points of time what's going on, how fashion is changing, what are the price points, what new launches have come, what kind of stuff you can get. And by doing that, essentially, you're trying to build your brand. At the same time, you're trying to engage with the consumer as much as you would want, depending on what your targets are, where you want to really go. So I think from that perspective, it becomes very, very important. And India being a very, I would say, loyalty building is very, very hard. So therefore, this becomes even more important. Otherwise, your cost of acquisition really goes through the roof.
Deepak, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I would just like to add that although we keep saying that India is a mobile first country and 350 million or smartphone users, but just caveat that app has the most, we can control the experience of a user in the most expected manner, efficient manner on an app, but at the same time we should be mindful of how app is just one another channel. So although app is important, it brings a customer loyalty in the long run. It taps into those premium customers who don't want to do price comparison or deals check on other platforms, but the seamless experience should not be discounted because of just an app. So that would be my just 2 cents on it.
Sanjay, just to follow on to this question, you work with a lot of mobile app companies. You basically provide a solution to really measure the success of how the mobile app is doing, how the investment in the mobile app is doing. And you come across different sizes of companies. I mean, with the company which has a small install base versus like large install base. Is there any scale at which people should think about mobile app? I mean, is there any sort of threshold below that they do not really worry about mobile app?
Well, I think I'll give my personal take on this. So I don't think there is any threshold per se. It depends on what market you're trying to, what's your target segment, what you're trying to achieve. We at AppsFlyer, we work with companies which have 1 million installs a month and versus a company which has 10,000 installs a month. So the range is quite huge. It does not necessarily mean that it's applicable or good for one sector and not good for other sector. I think it's very important. And to the earlier point, I just want to make one point there. Solving for the entire discovery is also one of the 3 critical elements to have the stickiness of the user. So right, so if you have a platform which is catering to the user's needs, doesn't matter which scale you are at. Of course, I mean, if you're just a beginner, then launching up a mobile app itself does not help. But if you look at certain verticals, let's say health or fitness, you might start from day one. So I would say there is a critical threshold where an app pitches in. It can work for any vertical at any scale.
So let's make it a bit more specific. I think you talked about some general, trend around why you should think about mobile app. Let's talk about, specifically your business. What is Ajio's mobile app strategy? How do you basically see mobile app as a channel for your business?
Yeah, so as Ajio, we are very particular that we build the brand in the most effective manner. When I say build the brand in the most effective manner, we really need set of loyal customers who provide us high LTV, lifetime value. Because essentially, if you look at data today, I mean, the first problem genuinely that people like us face is out of 100 installs that happen day one, only one ends up buying. It's less than 1% in most cases. But the whole point is we have not yet been able to answer why this, right? Why is the funnel throughput so low? And then over a period of time it increases. So even after that, what we see is our cost of acquisition and our retention strategy on app is actually significantly better from an ROI perspective versus if you were to target a desktop or a mobile. And if you look at desktop again, the behavior itself is changing, right? And again, there it's very, very difficult to do one-on-one marketing, and SMS and email, for registered users as a channel have really gone down. In fact, there are several companies now who only do notifications. But again, you have to be cognizant of that fact. Depending on which channel you have to ensure that your users doesn't get really antagonized by too many notices that come to him. So from that perspective, it becomes very, very important. Also, what happens is the ability for you to really measure effectiveness on app becomes easier, right? Because you exactly know which device comes, where do people come from, which device, from which geography, what IP address, what have they done. So all that data enrichment, that you have on app, you can effectively target much, much better than on a mobile device or a website. And in the long run, obviously, if your net additions from an organic front and retention continues to be better, you have a good, ecosystem made, which could potentially turn, profitable. Because right now, app marketing it's not profitable marketing, I would say, at volumes. So that's what we have seen, and since we have been working with AppsFlyer and you guys, we have seen, at least 2 to 3x, not 12x that we had mentioned, ROI is coming on app versus other platforms.
Yeah, yes, we have some developers also in the audience. So, just as a marketer, I mean, in order to do a good job of marketing in the mobile app, the app needs to be prepared for the marketing. And Sanjay, you work with, you bought a platform which basically is targeted for marketers as well as for developers.
Sure.
So, what kind of best practices developers should follow to really prepare the app for, whether it's retention, retargeting, user acquisition, etc.
So I think one of the important pieces, and if I do a little bit of crystal ball gazing, and where is this entire app ecosystem landing to, I think it's eventually a day might come and say, hey Siri, can I have the best shirt? And I don't really need to go to Flipkart and Ajio and things like that, and it will just give me best shirt offer and across all this. So I think the whole discovery thing that I said in the beginning needs to be solved. So one is the user experience is very important. Two, from a marketing standpoint, I would say it's very important to measure. What you can't measure is, you can't control that. I was reading a quote other day, I can't recollect the name, saying that, the quote was that the gentleman was saying that I am worried that half of my investment is failing. The problem is that I don't know which half is failing, right? So always remember, this is a thumb rule, in God we trust, for everything else we need data, right? So it's very, very important to have data in place and to measure your investments or users that are coming or end users something. For that you need to work with all the measurement tools, not only necessary attribution, which is unbiased, which is universal, which is third-party neutral. By that I mean that you should not work with let's say an attribution provider who has some kind of interest in a particular media source. Right? I heard some of our clients who move from other platforms saying that, hey, we used to see a performance better on other networks, which seems to have changed now. What did change? So we didn't change anything. And then they figured out that possibly, and this is what they say, I'm not labeling the statement, is that they've identified some of their measurement partners had certain interests or goals towards some partners, and therefore the results were skewed. You can't have Virat Kohli batting and saying that, hey, I'll decide when I'm out. It doesn't work like that, right? You need to have an umpire. So you need to have a third party, unbiased attribution provider or any other analytic provider. So I think two key things from an app standpoint, I would say UI discovery, from marketing standpoint, is having the right tools in place.
Cool, awesome. So switching the gears here, I think we move from why businesses should invest into apps. Now move on to marketing side. I think once you have the app, your immediate problem is how do you really get the user to install the app? And Flipkart, one of the number one player in terms of app distribution. Can you talk about what are some of best practices around really convincing the user to install the app and give us space on the mobile phone? How do you drive user acquisition?
So, like with the other channels, we look after the paid sources and the organic sources, and we have to be mindful of where we have to go towards the customer rather than expecting them, hey, we have built a great product and expecting them to come to us by default. So, a good part of market research / business intelligence goes behind where is the customer today, where are they finding us and other e-commerce players, and part of the strategy of acquiring them, I can talk in depth about how we'll go after the paid channels. but a lot of energy goes behind the organic as well in order to have the right discovery, whether it is on the Google search, whether it is on the Play Store search, having the right set of call-outs out there, the right sort of descriptions on the pages. And on the paid side, of course, there are networks with whom you also partner, and then there are networks, like Sachi, InMovie, etc., and then you also help on that in some regard. And then there are brands with whom you can directly tie up. We work on a competition basis, so we look at the ROI in terms of the revenue that we are getting from the customers that we acquire. We prepare a bouquet of right set of networks whom we work with, following the guardrails of the performance, and then we benchmark it with the organic customer behavior. Having said that, it is quite challenging in itself to anticipate that the customer behavior on paid channels will be similar as organic, but that is where we strive towards. And then brand partnerships, for example, we are in partnership with Gioni and Vivo and a lot of other Chinese manufacturers, where we have the Flipkart app pre-burned into the device. So the moment the customer unboxes the app, and we make sure that we are partnering with the premium ranges of handsets, not throughout the offerings, they find Flipkart app right there. So the brand association between Flipkart and the premium handset that they would have bought on, let's say, Vivo or Gioni, then they start associating and start the journey from there on.
Interesting. How do you like when you pre-install the app on these mobile devices? How do you track discovery? How does the user know that there's an app on the devices? How do you activate the user?
We at that point actually we can't control much, because the user in itself is most of the time excited about the new phone and seeing what is there in terms of their home screen and what are the different apps. But moving on, that is where retargeting and re-engagement comes in. We also do sort of push notifications with other third-party stores. For example, in Gioni we have Gioni store. So if there is a big sale coming, for example, big billion day sale coming, before that we will give a small nudge to the customer that 5 days to go. Great products, great deals on Big Billion Day, and so on and so forth. But for the pre-burned devices or for any other acquisition on paid or organic, we would follow up that with the engagement.
Piyush, when you hear there's a lot of fraud happens in the mobile application as well, right? You have a lot of these incent apps which give you like some incentive to install the app, people install that, uninstall that. So how do you detect these kind of fraud which happens in the industry? And I will have a follow-on question to maybe Sanjay after that, in terms of how technology like AppsFlyer can help you fraud detections.
Sure. See, in our case, we are not building anything to sell, so to speak. We are not in a hurry to really develop something which doesn't provide us long-term benefit, right? Because at the end of the day, slow growth but profitable growth is more important. So we have a strategy which is, we know what is the end goal that we want to achieve, right? Is it LTV or is it getting the first time transaction profitable, right? So these are the two parameters on which we really work. Because for us, getting downloads is not, difficult at all. If I'm a part of the MyPio suite of applications, I already have 5-6 million installs. It doesn't help. So there are two fundamental issues here. One is that why will somebody download an app? And if he's just downloading for an incent, it's a big problem, right? An incent could nudge him, right, to really download, saying, I have an app-only offer, and therefore you download, right? But in the long run, you have to really look at that data and see, is it really helping? Because is the same person actually buying multiple times over the next 3 months? And 3 months is what we really think is the LTV currently. Otherwise, you could amortize it over, indefinite periods. So that's very important. Secondly, what we have also seen is that if you have something good, a USP which is heavy on content or which is differentiated, people when they come to mobile site and we have our ticker, we see huge downloads happening. Yes, we are not looking at hundreds and thousands of or I would say hundreds, let's say lakh plus downloads a day. We are looking at reasonably good numbers, but which are not influenced by any sort of incentive. So the where we do is we test out with multiple platforms. Like you said, we work with MC Sachi, InMovie, we are about to tie up, and then we have our own ecosystem whom we work with. But the most important is we are trying this out to see how does the LTV really pan out. And we're not investing too much because we are still in the process of really testing that out. Because a lot of data that we also gather and suggests that uninstall rates are very, very high. Right? And for large players also, during non-peak sale days, it's as 60-70%. So you want to be mindful of that fact because the whole point is to get him to stick with you. And if he goes away, it defeats the entire purpose.
Yeah.
So we follow this in a very, very calculated manner, and we are very mindful of the spends that we do.
Sanjay,
How much time do we have? I can go on and on this topic, one of my favorite topics. I think you mentioned in your presentation, we have about 10% retention, 12% retention globally on day 7, and about 3.5-4% on day 30.
Yeah.
India is a tad lesser than that, but I would say still ballpark to feel good at the global level. So at that less retention and so much demand from the advertisers, there is obviously a little bit of fraud bound to happen. Where there is money, the fraudsters, people who have bad intentions are supposed to convey, right? So that's true. I think the onus is on all of us, the advertiser, the publishers, and the technology providers to counter that fraud. Now, if you look at 2016, there's about 1.3 billion fraud, various Forrester or anyone else reported, of which about $1 billion worth of fraud is on impression-led, which is mostly brands, but about 350 million worth dollars of fraud on performance, right? So, and if I break this further, kind of data a little again, again divided into confirmed fraud versus suspected fraud, there's about 100 million worth of confirmed fraud versus 250 million worth of suspected fraud, right? So huge amount of fraud still exists there. Now, not that fraud is new to us and we've not heard about it, we're not doing anything about it, but I think at AppsFlyer we thought we need to up the ante and do something about it. And in addition to IP filtering, data modeling, receipt validation, a bunch of things that are available there. So we came up with a product which is completely internally built, developed, a big data based product pending called Device RAM. This was around October-November time frame. The soon got implemented at Ajio as well. What we do is, there are about 3.4 billion devices. 98% of mobile devices are already ranked. We already have a footprint in there of mobile devices. So therefore, we understand their behavior. And there is some 20 metadata signals and stop me. I'm very passionate about this topic. So if I can just go on board, a little more, you can stop me. So there is enough footprint we have in these devices, and we understand the behavior. And there are some 20 metadata signals that we capture in this device and to identify the click, install, and event that's happening from that fraud. On every click, install, and event, we rate that device. Like we have our mortgage ratings, AAA, AA, B, and C. Similarly, we rate these devices with those ratings. So anything that has a suspicious behavior or a confirmed suspicion behavior, we rate it as C. So what happens is that any install coming from that device, it can be a bot, it can be simulated thing or thing. So it's rated as C and the postback is not given back to that to the publisher. Therefore, the advertiser saves his money spending on that. And anything that is new, because I said we have 98% footprint. Anything that comes out of 2%, for example, what Deepak mentioned is that they have pre-burned. So there are a lot of new devices which are coming in that we don't have a footprint. So we rate them separately. Once we have a rating there, then we can give that. Once we have a footprint there, we can rate them as AAA, AA. So point I'm trying to make is that there is a provision thankfully now, in addition to what used to be in the industry standard of IP filtering, click time to install and things like that, a proper anti-fraud. It does not only detect, it prevents fraud from happening.
I would just add here a use case for Sanjay, and last week we were looking at some of the paid installs, and there were 2,000 installs from a single village in Punjab from a single IP, and then we were wondering, wow, what happened? So my piece of advice to the advertisers is that whenever you are tying up with any new network, ask very hard questions about what are their fraud prevention techniques. I can give you examples of networks who claim to have their own fraud detection, And on top of that, platforms like AppsFlyer and Tune, I think they need to come up with more advanced sort of techniques, maybe leveraging artificial intelligence, where you are going beyond the typical click to IP and time spent and all those basic filters. There is a lot of money to be saved.
Yeah, this is like fraud is it's a lot of opportunity for
really growing.
Yeah, really growing. To provide a solution.
And fraudsters are getting much more smarter. You put a prevention technique, they get smarter than that. So, and that's what we up the game and we wanted something to do at us. So it's completely inbuilt product, machine learning, big data, all that.
Awesome. I think we'll move to the topic which is retargeting the engagement. That's the solution that we provide. Flipkart, one of the largest players in the market. You probably have reached the stage where pretty much everybody has Flipkart app, right? So how do you measure? Let's start with measurement. How do you measure the engagement on the app? What are the metrics you use to really see the value of the acquisition you acquired?
We have more than 100 million install base, and Flipkart has reached that stage, I think sometime in 2016, where we really need to put our heads down and seriously think about now what. You can expand as much as you want in the top of the funnel, but at the end, if the funnel is not healthy, you're not making the right amount of money, and at the same time, the customers would keep falling out, and you can only put in so much money to chip in the top of the funnel. We have started aggressively on the app retargeting last year because some of the metrics. How did we identify that this is the right time? If I'm understanding your question correctly, we looked at I would make it very simple. The 5 C's of marketing. So, what is the company doing? What is the overall strategy of the company? In 2015, we went app only. Did not turn out well. We went back to website and website. What is the competition doing? So our big competitions, they were growing aggressively at the same time. You can look at the number. Every advertiser should look at the numbers on their platform, on third-party platforms, to make sure that how the app engagement in terms of the active users, monthly active users, daily active users, how is your company trending to competition? What is the cost of acquiring the customer? So the cost of customer acquisition, if this is going up, that is an alarming indicator for us. Then things like this, and what is the overall market context, that made us think hard that we are investing so much in terms of the top of the funnel, but they are not returning back. And at that time we did a couple of key initiatives in terms of making all the channels synchronous to each other. Last year we have launched a progressive web app. That means that if you are a customer and you are clicking on Flipkart, whether you are on M site or on app, you will have the same sort of seamless experience. And in order to make sure that the customers who were on app and for some reason they are falling out of the app, that takes a lot of serious consideration that why exactly is that happening. Is it something fundamentally shift that you have to make in terms of the customer behavior, or is it something that you're not reaching out to the right channel? At an overall level, we do re-engage the customers on social networks, Facebook, Google, etc. And at a product level also, if, for example, you gave an example, I looked at a red t-shirt yesterday, I put it in my check cart box, I just forgot it. Flipkart will follow the customer wherever they are going in order to just remind them that, hey, this is something that you might be interested in. So that is also another way to re-engage at a product level. So we have started doing those things in the past few months, and in the future, these things will keep only keep growing.
Just to get a bit more specific on the metrics, when a lot of people here are from e-commerce, are there any benchmarks that are good benchmarks in terms of monthly active user or daily active users? What percentage of users you think is a good benchmark to have as monthly active user base? How much time you think is a good time to spend on the app to consider the user as engaged users? Are there any hard metrics that are the benchmarks that you can probably talk about?
Yeah, so certain matrices that we follow is how many downloads. So there are two parts. One is organic, one is paid. Versus that, how many sessions you get. You measure it either weekly or on a monthly basis. We don't go beyond that. Makes sense. Second is out of that, what is the conversion that comes back to me because of remarketing activities, either through my own platform or through third-party platforms that happens. That's the second thing. Third thing we also see is our ABV increasing. I mean, as a repeat percentage, is it increasing in terms of average basket values? Because as you become loyal, you also tend to spend more. The fourth thing that we have also seen is in terms of when you really are looking at an LTV, what kind of notifications are we able to deliver? So let's say to your point, 60% switch off. So is that number increasing or is it not? And that's one metric that we always measure because that's very important to figure out what is the balance you need to have. If you overload or do it overtly, right, your uninstalled rates will increase. So we keep a very close eye on some of these ratios, and there are certain benchmarks as per various reports that float around in terms of what it should be. So we try and keep it, or so to speak, we manage it in a manner where it is healthy, right? So that we don't have to really again spend. And then the other part is, where earlier, Google, Facebook, they're all walled gardens, right? So after AppsFlyer, we are able to really, we exactly know what's going on, right? Because it tallies with what is happening in our production, and therefore we know what's actually going on versus when it was only Google, Facebook, analytics, and all of that. So that's again very important. So and one more point was this whole attribution bit, right? When do you pay, right? So people pay on 30, 60, 90, 180. So that's also very important. So you have to ensure that you pay for the same install, for the largest possible period, right? Because otherwise people tend to game the system. So there are standard best practices around that, which we work with, with AppsFlyer on. So these are some of the things that we do. And as long as these matrices keep moving, we keep investing.
Sanjay, would you like to add anything new that you provide the technology to really measure?
I do not know
Especially for the people who are coming from the web world, they're used to Google Analytics as kind of the de facto standard for measuring engagement on the websites, right? How the app ecosystem is different from that, and how the tools and technology which are available for web are not sufficient for attribution.
Yeah. So I can add to that. I won't know necessarily what is the best metrics for UA retention time frame, but I think couple of things, and I'm just repeating that there is enough and more headroom in the mobile space. I think it's default first internet device. We have people in villages using internet on mobile versus laptop, right? So you don't see that happen. So it's by default a great device. There's enough data to prove that. And we had about 3.5 average hours spent on mobile internet last year versus 5 hours. Sorry, in 2015 versus 5 hours in 2016. So I think it's the most measured media, and that's critical. Something that you can measure is what you can control, as I said earlier. So there's enough and more headroom, right? Out of 1.2 billion, we have about 350 million smartphones, so much more headroom there. 4G is just reaching 1% of the country yet. So infrastructure is going to improve. It's everything is in the right direction, and it's the right place to be and capture. That's my 2 cents.
Cool. I mean, we got about 5 more minutes, so I'll try to wrap it up with some last minute thought on entire life cycle here. People uninstall the app. Is it important to go after those users again and get them back?
So basically, you have to understand why did they install Android. So if you're able to answer that, then you have to figure out whether it makes sense or not. And the second thing is that it's very difficult, I would say, to really identify a high LTV user, because the thing is that it's not a level playing field, and the problem gets a little more difficult because there are people running businesses to lose money. I wouldn't say to lose money, but people losing money in spite of that scaling. So when will that turn, we don't know. So in a healthy competition, when there's level playing field, you're there to really make money, and it's not a land grab game like what's been happening. then you have to really think through, yes, does it make sense or not? Because finally, intent of download is super important. And that's what will make that user, loyalty.
Anything to like that?
No, I think you summed it nicely. The way that app behavior is supposed to be in India, it's kind of India-specific problem. Just like missed call was invented in India. People download the app few days before the sale, install it the next day. So this is a trend that we have been seeing continuously. We are okay with it as far as that's the choice that the customer is making. To your question that do we want to chase the customer back? Absolutely yes. It will keep happening until the mobile infrastructure becomes sustainable in India. And what we can do to counter that is things like I mentioned about progressive web app, or making sure that the customer is signed in every time he is either on PWA or on app, so that you can understand the customer behavior better, so that when you are acquiring that customer next time, the LTV is slightly longer than what it was last time.
I think there's also this challenge of measurement. Multiple tools give you a different story. I mean, if you go to a Google Play Store, there's a different story. AppsFlyer, there's a different story. FB, there's a different story on uninstalls. And to really figure that out is challenging. So I think a lot of work also needs to be done on that front.
I think from a technology standpoint, it's very important to know at what point in time did he uninstall. Right? That's what technology solves for today. Is he one of the guys who just installed with an intent to have an incent behind it? Forget the fraud install which has come from fraud, bot or whatever. Or is he a guy who was adding something to the cart and for technology challenge or something else, or user experience he uninstalled it? I think if that's the differentiation you can create, you will be able to judiciously decide who is the guy who I really need to go after, between somebody who just installed it, he got his 2 paisa, 2 rupees or whatever on mobile recharge, and then goes off. And that's what technology helps you to do. To tell you in what, at what stage in the evolution of life cycle or food chain did he drop off, and then you capture it. That's where the retargeting piece comes in, right? So, and therefore I always recommend my, another food for thought, my advertisers and marketers to go deep into events, right? When you define, don't just put add to cart as an event. Value of product, timestamp, purchase, whatever is the final value, do that, because richer in-app events help you eventually further in retargeting that. This will be
Cool. I guess we have a few more minutes. I will open up for the Q&A. Feel free to ask any questions related to mobile marketing, mobile business, mobile app acquisitions.